You're listening to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm Ryan Hill.
I'm John Galantis.
You can find our show online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions for Dr. Shah or suggestions for new topics, send us a text to 252-582-5028, or you can email us at contact@clearviewtodayshow.com.
That's right, and you can help us keep the show moving forward by supporting it online. You can share it with your friends and family. Leave us a good 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify. Absolutely nothing less than 5 stars. We're going to leave a link right there in the show notes. That's the description box. So you can do just that.
The description box.
I am perturbed today.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I discovered something over the weekend that has really rocked me to my core. Mm-hmm. It's a rule. It's a rule that I didn't know existed. I'm 32 years old.
I know what you're talking
about. I'm 32 years old, and never have I heard this rule. But my parents knew about it.
You're 32?
I'm 32. Yeah.
Ew.
Yeah, I know. I feel musty and dusty. My mother knew about it. David's mother knew about it, and David knew about it. Ryan knows about it.
Yep.
Our Adam knows about it. His parents and grandparents, everybody I asked knew about this rule.
Right.
And I never heard it once, but somehow everyone knows it. Apparently, there was a phenomenon going around for decades that you weren't allowed to sing at the dinner table.
100%.
You could not sing at the dinner table.
Yep.
And if you ask why, the answers you get were, I don't know, or it's rude.
It's rude. Yep. Yeah, that was growing up 100%. We couldn't sing at the dinner table. And it was bad because absentmindedly I would start just kind of like, and Mama was like, we don't sing at the dinner table. We don't sing at the dinner table,
What does that mean? It's rude.
It's rude.
How is
you
it?
Don't do it. It's rude.
So, like, if I were to be like, that shirt is not working on you, and those glasses make you look like a hipster wannabe.
Why would you say
That's
that?
rude.
Right.
Singing at the dinner table is also rude.
Let me rephrase. Not necessarily rude. It's impolite.
What is that?
Like burping at the dinner table. Like just sitting there, just belch in front of everybody. It's not polite. You don't do it. I don't know why. I don't know who decided that somewhere in eons ago, but that was our rule growing up.
I talked to your mom, and I also talked to you because you weren't allowed to sing at the dinner table, and we called up your mom, and she said, yeah, you can't do it. And I said, but why can't you do it? Explain it to me. She was like, it's just rude. You can't do that. What was it like? I mean, did you got onto for singing at the dinner table?
Yeah, there was no singing at the dinner table. Like, you start singing a song, it's like, if you want to sing, you can get up.
Right.
But you can't sing at the dinner table.
Right.
If you sing at the dinner table, you're going to grow horns.
Grow horns?
Yeah.
Now we didn't have a consequence. Like there wasn't like a symptom that would arise. It was just, hey, it's rude. Don't do that.
The lady who plays piano.
Grow horns?
Grow horns where? On your head?
Yeah, like you grow a horn, like right out of your head.
And
what?
Yeah.
But she knew, I mean, obviously, maybe she thought that when she was a kid, but she knew that wasn't the case.
Right.
Here's what there's a woman who plays piano on our worship team, and I called her, and because Adam, we were eating dinner with Adam, he said, no, there's no singing at the dinner table. And so I called his mom. She said, no, there's no singing at the dinner table, because my mom wouldn't allow it. Mm-hmm. So I called her mom. I really did this. I called her mom, and I said, what is this thing about no singing at the dinner table? She said, I'm going to learn you today.
Oh.
Sing at the table, play in the bed. The devil's going to get you before you dead. And she just paused like that was the answer. And like that was the missing answer. And I said...
That's cross-stitch hanging up in my house.
I said,
That's at our dinner table.
It's the table runner along the middle of the table.
I can't figure it out. I can't figure it out. So I was at a loss for words. I called my own mother. And I said, why was this not a thing in our house? She was like, well, I always thought it was silly. And I said, so you know about it? She was like, oh yeah, my daddy was very strict. No singing at the supper table.
So that's interesting because it's not a rule at our dinner table.
Yeah.
Like the kids can sing if they want to.
But I said, why was Papa so strict on it? You know, I never really knew. You're just supposed to eat your food. I said, what does that mean, Mama? You're just supposed to eat.
Didn't he say it was because she thought he was a military?
But still, what does that...
What is the impetus behind that rule?
Right.
I don't know.
I get it. Like, you're out of the military. You got a family now, and your little daughter is singing at the dinner table, but you're like, no, because it's somehow rude. Like, if I'm mean to you, if I say ugly things, that's rude. But singing at the dinner table is spreading joy.
I don't know.
It's like,
I
I love life, but it's
rude.
I don't get it. I need someone, because I know there's a bunch of older Southern people listening to this show, and I know y'all love the show, but you know that this was a rule for you. You got to make it make sense. Please write in.
If you know the reason, or if you have a justification, like David said, like if you sing at the table, you'll grow horns, or sing at the table, what is it, play in the bed? The devil's going to get you before you're dead.
But it was like, and she was like, see, there you go.
There it is.
There it is. And I was like,
clear as crystal.
I guess I can't argue because it rhymes. I usually don't beg for people to write in. Please write in. I need to know what this is.
Yep.
This is a quest at this point.
Give us the justification behind the rule, 252-582-5028, or you can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. We'll be right back. Elizabeth, my darling bride, what would you say is the most beneficial thing you could do for yourself in the morning?
Probably drink an entire pot of coffee when sitting.
I'd say that's a close second. No, the best thing you can do for yourself is to start every morning with a daily devotional.
If only we had one to talk about.
Well, as it turns out, we have two.
Right now, you can unlock the power of daily inspiration, wisdom, and spiritual growth in our devotional series, 30 Days Through a Crisis and 30 Days to a New Beginning. Written by our pastor, Dr. Abadan Shah, and his wife, Nicole, the 30 Days devotional series is designed to reveal new biblical truths every single day.
That's right, and every day is a new revelation to guide you on your Christian journey toward a more meaningful and purposeful life. You can pick up your copy today from our website, that's clearviewbc.org, or you can grab both books on Amazon, Apple Books, and Audible.
That's 30 Days Through a Crisis and 30 Days to a New Beginning by Abadan and Nicole Shah. And don't forget, these are only the first two in an expanding devotional series. So keep your eyes peeled for future installments.
Thanks for listening. Now let's get back to the show. Welcome back to Clearview Today with Dr. Abadan Shah, the daily show that engages mind and heart for the gospel of Jesus Christ. You can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com, or if you have any questions or suggestions for new topics, send us a text to 252-582-5028.
That's right. We're here once again in the Clearview Today studio with Dr. Abadan Shah, who's a PhD in New Testament textual criticism, along with, drum roll please, you know her, you love her, you can't live without her. It's perma-guest Nicole Shah. Very glad to have you back on the show.
Welcome back, Nicole.
Back on the show once again. I got to ask both of you two guys, lightning round, because this has really turned my brain inside out.
Okay.
I can't find peace.
He's messed up.
I can't find peace. Singing at the supper table, yes or no, Dr. Shah?
Is there a problem with that?
Singing at the supper table, yes or no?
You're not supposed to.
What is
Must be
that
an American
mean?
thing.
What does that mean?
I don't remember.
We were going back and forth about this, like where did this originate?
Yeah.
And why does everybody know about
Yeah.
it? But I've never heard of it up until 2 or 3 days ago.
This is why I think, no, this is just my opinion. Okay, so it could be wrong. I kind of think it came from when you used to have like etiquette classes.
like
school.
cotillion.
Well, I mean, I never went to a cotillion, but we always had etiquette, and my mom was really huge on, no elbows on the table.
None of this
you
right here.
ask, you ask before you
Bad
get
move.
up.
Bad move. She ain't like that.
All of that stuff. So I tend to think probably that came from like etiquette. Just the
Now-
But
etiquette
why?
rules.
Why should it be?
Yeah.
That's what I'm wondering.
Like
So
this,
maybe-
I get, because this is kind of annoying at the table. I get it. Some of them are grounded in some logic, but singing at the table.
Maybe it's because your mouth is open. You cannot sing like, so maybe
Maybe.
food
Maybe
is
that's what it is.
coming out.
I don't know.
Could you sing at the table as a kid?
No.
Could your kids sing at the table when they were kids? You didn't care, right?
I don't
We didn't.
think we did.
No singing at the table?
That was never even a conversation.
I got in trouble for it often.
Really?
At the table. Because I would start singing without thinking about it.
So
I
it
just
wasn't. It wasn't that they weren't allowed to. It just wasn't even a thing. That's what I was
no,
saying.
because I didn't grow up like that.
So were there any, number one, were there any silly rules that you didn't understand? Or were there any dinner table specific rules that because that's wild to me, the no singing at the table.
Yeah, that's wild to me too.
Yeah.
But I get it because it was, when you're singing, your mouth is open, and if you have food in your mouth,
It's like falling out.
and nobody wants to see your mouth open. I still know people who chew with their mouth open.
Oh, yeah, that was one of the big rules.
Yeah.
Chew
Yeah.
your mouth
Close
closed.
your
And
mouth.
also,
Chew with your mouth closed.
maybe
Yeah.
it's because when kids sing, they're real obnoxious. Like when my kids sing, they don't actually sing. They're like la 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 la. Maybe that was what it is. Maybe the dinner table is where we need some peace and quiet.
Maybe so. Maybe that's
It was like a flash forward of Gavin right there.
Yeah, yeah, I know.
You just your profile right there. I was like, that's Gavin.
Dr. Shah,
That's Holden.
yeah, Dr. Shah, what were some of the rules growing up that, looking back on it today, you were like, why was that a rule?
Oh boy.
Or even at the time, it just didn't make no sense to you.
Yeah, one of them, of course, like the taking. It was not a rule, so I can't use that one. But one of the ones that, because I was going to talk about the onion during the summertime. But like if you walk in the house and you take off your slippers or shoes, you cannot have one of them turned over. You have to make sure they're
They have to be right side up.
right side up.
Really?
Yeah,
Was that a common thing, or was that just in y'all's house?
it happens in other places.
Okay,
too.
okay.
Yeah,
Your shoes have to be right side
What
up.
is what's the reason?
never was given them.
Just because this is what we do.
Yeah. I think, because I've thought about it over the years, even as a kid, I used to think, it's like, why is that? Maybe it's because you go outside and there's mud or whatever, and your slippers get some of that, and then you bring it in the house, and then it's sitting there, and everybody's looking at it. So
Yeah, it
maybe
could be.
that's why turn it over. We don't want to see that.
Maybe.
Could
maybe.
critters, if it was right side up, could critters get in, like scorpions and stuff and spiders get in your shoes?
Well, growing up, every time we would put our feet inside our shoes, not slippers didn't matter, of course. We had to beat them,
beat it out.
and then turn them over and beat them again.
Did anything ever come out?
Never did. I've seen one or two spiders come out once in a while, but it was very rare. But I've been bit by a spider before.
Yeah,
so
really?
I can
Remember that.
definitely understand. I mean, it was.
Do you
bad.
still beat your shoes when you put them on?
I still do the ones that are in the sunroom.
That, or if you haven't worn them in a while.
Yeah, I definitely
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah.
Now, I have shoe trees in most of my good shoes. For those of you who do not know, shoe trees are, made out of wood. And it kind of goes and slips in, and this kind of, it's like. It has the tension on it, so when it goes in, it keeps the cover, the leather really strong,
Yeah,
good.
that's nice.
So yeah.
That's
Need to
awesome.
get one of those.
Did y'all have, I don't know if y'all had this. This was one of the strange rules that we had. It has nothing to do with the supper table, but during a storm, if a storm come up, you have to unplug everything, like turn all the lights off, which I get.
Yeah.
But then the play has to stop. You have to sit down on a couch and be quiet.
Yeah, that didn't happen.
Never happened with y'all?
No, if it was a storm and if it was, not like right on top of us, my dad would take us out on the front porch and we would sit in the chairs and he would say, let's watch God's mighty power. As
See,
the storm.
Mima was the opposite. Mima was like, you have to sit down and be quiet. I'm like, why I got to be quiet? Because the Lord is speaking. How are you going to talk if the Lord's speaking? I was like, I feel like
This is your dad's mom.
my mother's mom. Yeah,
mom's
yeah. She was my granny. I don't know what her. I didn't really ever stay over there that much. She for sure she had some weird rules too. But definitely that was the one rule that Mima had that I always found weird. She was like, "Well, because you're sitting here talking and the Lord's trying to speak. So how are you talking when the Lord's speaking?" I'm like, yeah, I didn't ever think of it. Yeah, so now
It's hard to argue
You
with.
had to sit in but I mean, think about a 4 or 5 year old sitting in a dark room during the storm, just have to be quiet until the storm's over. That was torturous.
I bet.
I used to.
Well, that would, if you're not making any noise, then you hear all the noise that it's making, and
Right.
that can be scary to a
a little-
4
yeah,
or
it
5
can be a
Yeah,
little
true.
scary.
Yeah, that's what we did, man. We had to sit down and be quiet.
Yeah. The verse of the day today is coming to us from Matthew chapter 10, verse 16. Behold, I send you out as sheep in the midst of wolves. Therefore be wise as serpents and harmless as doves.
One of my favorite.
I was just about to say the same thing. You go ahead.
No, I mean it is what exactly you were about to say.
Yeah, I think it's one of my favorite verses because you don't hear that. Harmless as doves, a lot of us got that down. But be wise as serpents. We tend to think that the serpent is evil. I don't want to be anything like it. But Jesus said it. Jesus didn't pick that animal like, oh shoot, I probably should have picked a better animal. He said what he said and he meant it. Be as cunning, no, maybe not cunning, but be as wise and as discerning.
That's right.
As the world, but also be as harmless as doves.
Yeah.
One of my favorite passages in the Bible, and I've often said that to our team. Be wise as serpents. Means
Yeah.
don't be foolish. There are no points for walking around, and there's things happening around you, or people are doing dumb stuff. There are people who are malicious. There are people in church who will do things that are outright wrong.
Right. Yeah.
Don't be naive.
Yeah. Your naivety is not innocence.
Yeah, that's somebody else is gonna have to pay for your. Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Okay, you need to get with it.
True. Very true.
But harmless as doves, which means we don't attack people. We don't then say, "Oh, you're going to do that? Watch this. I'm going to one up you, and I'll do this." And no.
Yeah.
We are harmless.
Great point.
I find myself now. This might just be me, and it's sometimes, and it could happen to other people. When something happens, there's a conversation. Sometimes I get it. Sometimes something goes off in my head, and I'm like, Other times it takes for me to go home and you kind of replay the conversation in your mind or the whatever happened, and then you're like, oh. Yeah. So I don't know, is it too late then to really,
I do that sometimes too, and then I get, and maybe you can speak on this, Dr. Shah, because I sometimes will replay a conversation in my head, and I'm like, oh, that's what they meant. But then I don't know, did God just show me the truth, or did I just create something that they didn't actually mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can overthink stuff, but most of the times, your first instinct is right. Most of the time. I'm not saying every time.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Most of the time, your first instinct is right. What about the other times? Sometimes we tend to see people the way we see ourselves. If our view of life and people is and sin is distorted, we're going to think everybody's out to do that.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So that there is a place for that, but most of the time, your first instinct is right.
Yeah. You said this before too, Dr. Shah, but that I feel like our wives are very good at that. Like they have that discernment that kind of perks up often faster than we as men
That's
do.
right.
Yeah.
And it just kind of speaks to that, God brings a husband and a wife together for a reason, because together they make a great team.
Yeah. How do you bring this into you? Because we want to talk about marriage today in light of our marriage conference that we just had here at Clearview Church. How do you do that? How do you bring wisdom and harmlessness into your marriage?
Yeah.
Oof. You go ahead and speak to that.
How do we bring wisdom and what again?
Yeah, so how do you be, like if I'm saying, hey, in all things, in my marriage especially, I'm going to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. How do those two play with each other?
Understanding people, personalities, is very important in a marriage. Knowing how to handle situations, handle people, handle bad behavior it's very important.
Yeah. Yeah.
Being naive or being clueless is not a commendable quality.
Yeah, and I think a lot of men take that on. Like men almost want to, not all men, of course, but just generally speaking, the pattern seems to be that a lot of husbands want to be clueless so that there's no responsibility. The more hands off I am, the less I actually have to put into this marriage.
Right.
I can see that, but I mean, then what kind of marriage are you going to have if you have a hands-off approach?
Right.
I mean, that seems like you're shooting yourself in the foot.
Right.
Yeah, in the long term, 100%.
Sometimes I feel like we fall into this feedback loop of, the guy will come home, and again, this is broad strokes. This isn't true for every marriage across the board, but the guy will come home after working hard all day, comes home and he's like, I just want to put my feet up. I want to relax.
Yeah, I want to turn off.
And the wife is like, maybe there's little kids in the home. I've been dealing with kids all day. You are finally an adult that I can talk to. And also, I need a reprieve because I've got to do X, Y, and Z. And I've had human beings clinging to me all day long. And this feedback loop of, why don't you let me relax? Why don't you let me have a break? And, these unmet expectations sometimes set us up for failure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing that I would say, and I tried, especially when we had kids at home, and I didn't stay at home throughout their childhood. I tried to stay home for, bits and pieces, especially when they were young.
Yeah.
Younger, I guess. And when they got old enough to either go to preschool or go to school, then I went back to work kind
That's
of thing.
true.
So I do remember those days of him going to work and then coming home, and I'm just like, I need an adult. I need an adult conversation. Someone take the children. Or I remember meeting him at the door with one or two, one of the here.
Yep.
They're yours. Because I've had it. I remember all of those things, but then you listen to other marriage podcasts or things that you read. And the one thing that I remember hearing was, maybe to try to help your husband, especially if the wife is staying home, let him get in the house, maybe go to the bathroom, change clothes, just give him a few minutes just to decompress.
Be careful about that bathroom thing, because if he goes in there, he ain't coming back out. He's gone.
This was back in the day when you didn't have smartphones.
Right, yeah.
There was no computer on these phones.
That's true.
It was simply
Sitting there reading the
text
shampoo
message.
bottle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the most,
Or
you could take a
magazine
few
or
bad
something.
pictures.
Did you ever take a newspaper?
I would take magazines.
Magazine. Yeah. You take my
Magazine, books.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
100%.
Yeah.
but I would
Bathroom going was far more productive pre-smartphone.
Yeah, true.
Right.
True.
Yeah. Now it's just.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a trap
Mindless,
now.
worthless. I mean, I've done it in the past few weeks. Ever since this hurricane thing happened, I found myself scrolling,
scrolling,
like
yeah.
at 10, 12 o'clock at
goodness,
night, and I'm
yeah.
like, why am I looking at all this footage? What does that do?
Right.
Yeah.
I'm looking at, and once in a while, something's silly, somebody jumping off of something,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
a fight,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like a boxing fight. I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Let's go back to the hurricane. I want to see what else is happening. But it's mindless.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one thing that I tried to put into practice especially when I was at home with the children a lot. Just giving him a little bit of time before I said here, or something, just something like that. But I do remember the day sometimes he would come home and he'd be like, I have talked all day long. I'm done. I said, well,
I'm talked.
That was before
I
you
said,
had a
"Can
daily
you-"
radio show
I
too.
said, can you just
Yeah.
listen then? Just listen and I'll just talk.
And then, that's the trap because you're like, yeah, absolutely, I can listen. And then they start talking, you close your eyes for a minute, you just put your head back, gone.
Yep.
Gone.
I've been there.
That happened to me the other night.
Yeah.
Ellie was talking to me. I was like, I'm listening to you, and I put my head on the pillow. Big mistake.
Oh, that was
I was
it.
gone.
Gone. You were in bed.
I was in bed. Yeah,
Oh, that's
no.
a recipe for.
Yep.
yeah.
Yes.
I'm learning some of these
Disaster.
lessons the hard way.
Yeah.
Don't try to talk in the bed.
Oh, 100%. I'm going to go to
Especially if you got up early to work out or had a long day. Oof.
done.
yeah, you're gone.
Done. Out.
You're gone.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things that I love so much about the marriage workshop we just did, Art of Marriage by Family Life. It's a wonderful resource. It's a great opportunity for couples to draw closer to one another. It's a dedicated time, couple hours on a Saturday morning, and it's a chance for them to really dig into what the Bible says about marriage.
I like the title too, that it's an art. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's not a science, it's not a formula, it's an art. But they compare it. I think they did it in their old series. They did a newer series now where they kind of updated it. But the imagery is the same, where it's a dance. You know what I mean? It's got this imagery of marriage as a dance, your relationship as a dance. And I like it because I think a lot of times some of the miscommunication, maybe you guys can speak on this too, where the miscommunication is stop talking and let me get you to understand where I'm coming from. And it's like, yes, I hear you, but it's like, no buts. I need, and men and women, husbands and wives, it's like, just stop talking and understand what I'm saying. And it's like, they can do that. But then when there's no reciprocation, when that's not a dance. That's just a lesson.
Right.
Yeah.
And nobody wants to learn a lesson in their marriage.
Well, I mean, you can speak to this, John, as well as Abed and I can. Taking dance lessons.
Yeah.
I remember there were times that when we were we did dance lessons for our youngest daughter's wedding.
Right.
And then 8 months later, our oldest daughter
But
got
even prior to
married.
that, we did some lessons.
Well,
dance
so in
lessons.
between those two weddings, we did our own just
Personal
for
dance
fun.
lessons.
Just for fun.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of telling on us a little bit, but there would be times when we would have a little tiff or just be kind of like not happy with each other.
And then you
we'd
got to
have
go dance. Yeah, we did that too.
And then
I don't know what it is.
He would look at the dance instructor and he'd go, "But wow, dance lessons are a lot like marriage."
Yeah.
And I'd be like, and two, I literally had to close my eyes at times during those dance lessons
did.
because I would lead.
Yeah.
I would try to lead, and he could feel me lead, and
Trying
I
to
could
lead him,
feel
yeah.
him. And so for me to just stop
Yeah.
leading and just follow the feel of where he's going, and that my feet would go, my body would go. I just had to shut my eyes.
Isn't it crazy how, I mean, this is a response to that, but isn't it crazy how, I don't know what it is about like a fun activity, but it's almost an unwritten guarantee that if you plan a fun activity with your spouse, you're going to fight on the way there.
We're gonna argue beforehand. Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I think we did a 6 or an 8 week course, and then we did a 15-week course. What is
dancing?
that? Of dancing, yeah.
You
What
did
is
it twice?
We did, yeah. We did
Yeah.
the beginner one and then the bronze one.
Yeah.
What's 15 plus 8?
27.
We probably argued 27 times every single time on the way up there. I don't know what it is about doing fun activities with your spouse, but you're going to fight on the way there.
Well, it's because I do have to say this. I remember going to that conference, the Weekend
Marriage.
to Remember
Weekend.
conference. Actually, it was
It's
done.
all about family life.
It was
Yeah, yeah.
done by Family Life, who is doing the Art of Marriage as
That
well.
sort of led us to the Art of Marriage, the
Yeah.
previous edition, and now it is this one here.
Yeah.
This is the
new
newer
edition.
edition of the Art of Marriage. It just came out, I think, 2 years ago.
I can tell you very
I believe
quickly.
so.
Yeah.
But we went to a conference
Yeah.
that they did
Last year.
That's
2023.
We went to a conference that they did, and we were in Durham at a nice hotel, and there was a skit that was done, and boy, it was really simple, but it spoke volumes, where it was a husband and wife, and they're having this conversation, and then one person says something that kind of ticks the other one off, and then all of a sudden you see a third person in the room, and that third person is Satan, and as the couple is he's handing them ammunition. Each one of them, he's
Use
handing
this.
them.
Yeah. Here you
And
go.
when
Wow.
you realize, wait a minute,
That is
there's
how,
a
actually
third
how it
person in
works.
the room.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can even feel yourself too. Like when someone does something, like your spouse does something that you don't like, you can feel yourself take that ammunition, clip it on, because I might need this later.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna bring it up right now, but I might need this later. I felt myself do it.
It's powerful. I mean, I think this. They talk about this in. I'm not sure about this iteration of Art of Marriage, but in the previous videos, and you've talked about this in your sermons as well, Dr. Shah. You have an enemy in your marriage.
Yeah, that's true.
And it is not your spouse.
That's right.
There is an
Your enemy is not your spouse.
Right. Your spouse is not your enemy.
Yeah.
I mean, that's profound, and it's helped me tremendously. And Elizabeth and I are frustrated with one another, or we have different viewpoints about how to approach a situation. I look at her and I remind myself, this is the woman that I love. This is my wife. This is not my enemy. She's not against me, and I don't need to be against her.
I think a lot of the listeners like listening to you guys talk about your marriage because there's two sides of it. There's the human side of it, which is like, hey, this pastor and his wife are really just like me. They argue, but at the end of the day, they're human beings.
Right. Yeah.
And then there's the holy side where God is truly at the center of your marriage. So all those other things, they kind of pale in comparison. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When God is at the center, you know that no matter what happens, you're still moving towards a holy marriage.
Well, I will say that, and a lot of people can say this. I believe a lot of people, and every married couple that's Christian should say this, that by the grace of God, we are still married.
Amen.
Because it's true.
That's right.
I mean, you put two people who have two different opinions, two different ways of doing things, and maybe even two different ideas of how to go about doing whatever it is that you're going to do,
Yeah.
and you put them under the same roof, and you expect them to live happily ever after. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, true.
The marriage is learning how to compromise, learning how to maybe when you realize, this is not a hill to die on, to just say, okay, let's do it your way, or however it works out in that particular situation. But by the grace of God, I would even say even non-Christian couples, by the grace of God, you're still married.
Yeah, true.
But definitely for Christian
great
couples,
great
because you cannot. And on top of that, even though you're a Christian, you're still a sinful human being.
Right. Yeah. Two different sin natures butting up against one another.
Yeah.
It's not just our self gets in the way, but also the culture in which we live. It's easier to fight and
true.
be done with it and not work it out.
Yeah.
It's easier.
Yeah,
much easier now.
I don't see a whole lot of representation of good, healthy marriages in media today. It's not trendy and it's not compelling for people. They don't want to see that. They don't want to see. I can think of maybe a handful of shows that are airing right now that actually prop up marriage as a good thing, something to be valued, something to fight for.
You don't find that you don't find that anymore, because I feel now it may not be as much as I think, but I wonder how many couples stand up at their wedding day and they're vowing to love each other, and but sometimes I wonder in the back of their head, are they thinking, well, if it doesn't work out, then I can just
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah.
I can just leave,
Yep.
or I can, because if you look at divorces, and if you were able to look and see what are the reasons for divorces, I mean, not even just today, but even in the past, how many of them are irreconcilable
Yeah.
differences?
Yeah.
How
True.
many of them will say that's the reason?
Some of that is just stubbornness, hurt. Hurt is a very powerful place of where people don't want to work it out because of hurt. Yeah.
Yeah.
And in those situations when you've been hurt whether it was trust issue or hurt because of what you said to me or what someone said to me, that's where I think in the Western culture, most people, I would say, I mean, I would go 99% of the people are dealing with hurt.
That's a great point.
Hurt as a child, hurt because their parents, one of them walked out on them, or not even walked out, but two people couldn't get along, and they decided to say, you know what, I'm just going to step out and do my own thing, and then we'll work this out for this child. Hurt, of course, lack of trust. Hurt because someone's ugliness, someone's bad habit, someone's anger, someone's neglect, someone putting other things in priority over the family. That hurt is the root cause of 99% of the problem.
That's a great point. Yeah.
And don't think
Yeah.
that what you experienced as a child, like your home life, don't think that you leave that behind when you
Yeah.
get married.
Yeah.
You bring it
that's a
right
great
into your
point.
marriage.
Yeah, you don't really get over it as well as you think you do.
Yeah.
And unless you take that hurt and actively give it to God and say, God, this person has hurt me, or this situation has hurt me, I'm giving it to God. Secular counselors, I'm sick of them. I'm sick of it. Even some Christian counselors, I'm tired of them because they're finding ways to deal with hurt that are not only unbiblical, but they don't work.
Right.
They do not work. So when hurt happens and you're acting and behaving from a place of hurt, the only solution you have is to give that hurt to God.
Yeah.
You have to pray and say, God, this is a painful place. And it may not even be that with that marriage partner. It may have nothing to do with your spouse. It may have something to do with years ago. Or it may have something to do with the spouse. It may have something to do with the spouse's family. It may have something to do with, some of the hurt. But unless you give it to God and say, God, help heal my heart, or help me, even though I don't feel like I want to be healed.
Yeah.
So some people who will say that.
Yeah,
I
true.
don't care. I like this. I like this. I like to take my vengeance out because of what you did to me or what this person did to me. I'm gonna stay on this, and I'm gonna fight for this. I don't want it. Fight against yourself to stay there.
Yeah.
Give that hurt to God and tell God, God, I need help, and I don't want it, but I need it. So I'm going to ask you to intervene. That's all you have to do. I'm going to ask you to intervene in this situation. Intervene in my life.
Yeah.
And God will answer. It may be immediate. It may be over time. God may send someone. God may change your heart. God may change the other person's heart. God may change your hearts together.
Yeah.
God may change the circumstances.
But he will answer.
And
He will answer.
Yeah.
He will. And speaking from a counseling standpoint, also, I give couples, sometimes when I give them these little, not really even assignments, but when I give them like things to do, they look at it and they're like, this is so simple. And I said, but you got to create good habits.
Right.
So why don't you start by doing this simple thing
Right.
and do it every day?
That's right.
And they look at you like, and I'm like, if you start doing this, and I know it seems so simple and so elementary, and why am I doing this? Because you got to teach yourself new habits because you've been in the bad habits for 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Right.
So now you've got to learn to break those bad habits by putting in good habits. And how do you do that? By doing this one thing or these few things every single
Right.
day.
That's right.
And eventually I said, you do these things. And I said, you do it whether you feel like it or not. And I said, I promise you, your feelings are going to follow.
That's right.
But you have to do these things whether you feel it
Yeah.
in your heart or not.
Great point.
So that's the way we approach that, and that really helps.
Does work.
When there's hurt, because maybe that person doesn't want to do it, but they say, okay, I'm going to do this every single day.
Yeah.
And you know what? In a few weeks, their heart follows.
That's right. Great point.
That's right. So good. So helpful for us. Dr. Shah, thank you for today. Nicole, thank you for being on the show today. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. If you guys are looking for a great resource for your churches to dive into this concept of marriage, Art of Marriage by Family Life is a wonderful resource. It's a pretty great conference to put on because it's video led, so you need somebody to facilitate, but the videos do the heavy lifting. So encourage you to check that out. If you enjoyed today's episode, write in and let us know, 252-582-5028, or you can visit us online at clearviewtodayshow.com. Don't forget you can partner with us financially on that same website. Every gift that you give goes not only to building up this radio show, but countless other ministries for the gospel of Jesus. John, you got anything you want to plug as we close today?
Our debut album, Heaven Here and Now, is still available right now on iTunes, Spotify, Rhapsody, pretty much anywhere.
Kazaa,
LimeWire, FrostWire.
The dude in the back alley behind your house probably has a couple copies.
Just hand it to you in a brown paper bag.
Right.
Listen, it's still available. Go ahead and make sure you pick up your copy. I'm on it. Ryan's on it. Nicole's on it. Dr. Shah's one of our lead songwriters on it. So we're all here. The
David's
gang's
on it.
David's on it. Yeah, Nicholas, he wasn't on it, but he came to the studio one time, I think. So really, really great album. It's available right now. Also, Dr. Shah and Nicole's book, 30 Days of Praying for America, Daily Devotions to Heal Our Nation, available right now on Amazon. Pick up your copy today.
That's right. Make sure you guys tune in tomorrow. Lots of great content coming your way. We love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow on Clearview Today.